The 2026 Cowboys schedule is dropping Thursday. And look, I already know enough to tell you. The first 3 weeks of this season are going to be unlike anything this team has dealt with in a long time. And there's one specific scheduling situation in week 3 that nobody is prepared for. I'm breaking it all down today. Plus, there's a rookie on this roster who did something before he even got drafted that honestly stopped me in my tracks. What's up, Cowboys? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Cowboys. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So let's start with the numbers, because they actually hit different when you lay them out like this. As of yesterday, we are exactly at the halfway point of the offseason. 126 days since the Cowboys walked off the field against Washington on January 4th, and 126 days until they walk back onto a field, and not just any field. We're talking MetLife Stadium, Sunday Night Football, September 13th against the New York Giants. That's your opener right there. And honestly, I don't hate it. You want to find out where you are as a team, you go play a divisional rival on national television in week 1. No soft launch, no easing into it, just straight into the fire. Now, John Harbaugh is over there with the Giants, right? And look, I have a lot of respect for what he built in Baltimore. The guy has equity. He comes in with a resume, a proven track record, and the Giants are going to rally around that energy. But here's what I keep coming back to. He doesn't know what this Cowboys defense is going to look like. Nobody does. Because you know how it goes in preseason, it's going to be double vanilla out there. They're not going to show anything. So Harbaugh is going to be preparing for a defense that he's essentially guessing on. And on the flip side, you've got Brian Schottenheimer and Dak, a play caller and a starting quarterback who have already worked together, who already have the chemistry built. That continuity alone is a massive leg up, and I don't think people are giving it enough credit. I mean, look around the NFC East real quick. Philadelphia brought in Sean Mannion as their offensive coordinator, first time working with Jalen Hurts. The Giants have Matt Nagy calling plays for Jackson Dart, first time working together. Washington lost Cliff Kingsbury, and now David Blau is stepping in as offensive coordinator, first time working with Jaden Daniels. Every other team in the division is breaking in a new relationship between their play caller and their quarterback. The Cowboys, they're the only team in the NFC East with that continuity already in place. That matters. That matters a lot going into a week 1 matchup that's going to be front and center in front of all of America. Now let's talk about what comes after the opener, because this is where things get genuinely complicated. Week 3, the Cowboys are heading to Brazil to play the Ravens. I know on paper it sounds incredible. Cowboys versus Ravens in Rio, that's a marquee matchup. But you sit down and actually think about the logistics and it starts to get stressful real fast. You play a Sunday night game on the East Coast in week 1, right? So Monday's basically gone by the time you get home and decompress. Tuesday's a day off. That leaves Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to prepare. Then the following week, you're on a 9 or 10 hour flight to Brazil. And when you come back from that trip, you're not landing until Friday afternoon at the earliest. So you're talking about playing games in 3 consecutive weeks with the international trip sandwiched in the middle, across multiple continents, dealing with time zones, travel fatigue, all of it. I honestly think they need to seriously consider taking the bye week right after Brazil rather than pushing it later, or at minimum come back to a Monday night game the week after so you've got that extra day. Because right now, the way it shapes up, this could be a brutal stretch to start the season. And then there's a Thanksgiving conversation, which, you know, for Cowboys fans, that's basically a holiday within a holiday. The options on the table for who they could host at home on Thanksgiving include Arizona, San Francisco, Tampa Bay, Jacksonville, and Tennessee. Personally, give me Tennessee or Arizona. Make that turkey go down easy, you know what I mean? After what happened last year with Kansas City coming to town on Thanksgiving, where you literally could not enjoy your meal because you were on the edge of your seat the whole time, I want a game where we can breathe a little. Look, with the kind of schedule the Cowboys have this year, which apparently ranks as one of the hardest in the league, there probably isn't going to be many moments where you can just sit back and relax. Now, let me shift gears because I want to talk about this defense and specifically some of the guys they brought in through the draft, because I genuinely think people are sleeping on what's being built here. Caleb Downs is going to be the centerpiece of this secondary, a 21-year-old kid who came out of one of the best defensive programs in the country. But what really got me was something he did before he even got drafted. When he came in for his visit with the Cowboys, he already knew that Christian Parker had been the pass game coordinator and DB coach at Philadelphia. So what did he do? He started watching Eagle film. Before he even knew if he was going to be a Cowboy, he was studying film so that when he sat down with Parker, he could show him, hey, I already understand what you're trying to do on defense. I'm already thinking at that level. You know how rare that is? That's not just work ethic. That's a guy who understands what this opportunity means and is not going to waste a single second of it. And then there's Jay Sean Barham. Man, this guy, every interview I've seen him in, somebody asked him about position. Are you a defensive end? Are you a linebacker? And he just looks at them and goes, I play football. Every single time. Doesn't flinch, doesn't try to give some elaborate answer. I play football. And the size on this guy, 6'4", around 240 pounds, combined with that mentality, that chip on his shoulder energy, he went in the third round. And when you look at guys like Arvell Reese, who went 5th overall, same skill set, and Barham sitting there at pick 92, you better believe that's fuel. That's the kind of motivation that turns a third round pick into somebody who makes you look real dumb for not taking him earlier. Schottenheimer was even talking about how if they still did the Oklahoma drill, Barham would be first in line, and then Barham himself basically said, let's go do it right now. That's the energy I want on this defense. And honestly, the defense as a whole feels different this offseason. We went from people saying, we have no depth, nobody back there, to all of a sudden looking at the roster and going, wait, we actually have some real pieces here. Caleb Downs, Jayshon Barham, Malachi Lawrence, another one of those big, physically imposing young men who I think is going to make a real impact. And Christian Parker himself, the way he's out there working with these guys one-on-one, teaching the details, which foot forward, which foot back, how to keep your leverage when runners are coming through. It's the kind of technical coaching that this linebacker group has been missing for years. You can have all the athletes in the world, but if nobody's teaching them the fundamentals at that level, you're just hoping. Right now, it looks like they're actually being coached up the right way. Look, the biggest thing I want to see from this team in 2026 is physicality. Teams came out last season and just imposed their will on us. Carolina, Arizona, and I don't even want to get started on that one. You want to talk about Marvin Harrison? Because I'm pretty sure most of his highlight tape from last season is going to have a Cowboys defender in the background. That cannot happen again. The draft they just had was clearly built around fixing that, getting guys who come from programs that know how to win, that know how to be physical, that know how to stop the run. And the return game, that's another thing that can't be a liability. The return game has to get back to where it was. Special teams cannot be an afterthought. I think Schottenheimer is in a really interesting position heading into year 2. Everybody's going to be watching. You've got John Harbaugh on the other sideline in week 1 with all the reputation in the world, and people are naturally going to lean toward the guy with the rings on the wall. But I'll tell you this, the Cowboys are the only team in that division where the offense is already built on an established relationship. Schottenheimer showed last season that his offensive philosophy works, and now the defense is getting a real investment. The pieces are coming together. September 13th, Sunday Night Football, MetLife Stadium. I want this team ready. Not almost ready, not kind of ready, ready, because there's no easing into this one. And you know what? The schedule maker putting us on Sunday Night Football to open the season, that tells you everything. They're not hiding the Cowboys in a noon kickoff somewhere. They're putting us front and center because they know this team has storylines. They know this fan base travels, and they know that Dak against the Harbaugh defense is must-watch television. That's not charity. That's the NFL saying we expect the Cowboys to be relevant. Now the team has to go out there and match that energy. The other thing worth mentioning is the NFC East as a whole this year. Every team has something to prove. Nick Sirianni won a Super Bowl 2 years ago and set the standard. Quinnen Williams is over there in Washington with a team that went to the conference championship last year. Harbaugh just walked in with his reputation. And then you've got Schottenheimer in year 2 with a roster that's been quietly rebuilt through the draft with a defense that's got new blood and new energy. This division is going to be a war from week 1 through week 18. And honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. Let's ride.